Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Pro AV Today. I am your host, Ben Thomas. Today, we've got a really exciting conversation, frankly, one I've been looking forward to for a while. You know, as an AV community right now, we have a really awesome opportunity to continue to engage and grow our communities through things like inclusion, training, DEI initiatives, things like that. And where we've really seen success as a community with that is on a more localized level. It's easier to make a more of an impact. And, you know, one of the people I kind of look up to most with these initiatives is my next guest. She's almost a regular now on our show, but brought back on Melody Craigmyle of Exertis Almo. Melody, it's so wonderful to have you back on.
Well, Ben, it's great to see you too. And I know it's been a while since BenfoCom, where we had a ton of fun in some of our interviews. But yes, we're very excited about getting back into the community and talking about issues that matter in the AV community, especially diversity, equity, and inclusion. And that's definitely going to be a part of our program we're going to have next week in Boston. So yeah, great to be back on the show.
Well, look, I can't let a shameless BenfoCom plug happen and not acknowledge it. I appreciate that. It's we're going to have to trademark that one of these days. I don't know if Avix is going to fight me on it, but we'll see. You know, but Melody, we've known each other for a little bit now, and one of the things that's always stood out, not only about the great work that you guys were doing at Almo at the time, but you specifically, is you've done such a wonderful job of engaging and supporting the AV communities, and that's kind of manifested itself in a number of different ways, whether it's through things like, you know, the Almo 75-year anniversary Give Back initiative, where you guys are giving back to the localized communities, all the way to things like E4, right, which is, you know, a fantastic localized show that you guys put on a number of times every year. But, you know, thinking about that holistically, where does that inspiration come from for you, and what are some of the things that drive you to continue to engage the AV community?
Well, I think where this came from was, you know, when we started, you know, what was Almo Pro AV, you know, over a decade ago, is that, you know, we wanted to bring free, high quality education to the AV industry. And that was really the mission that we partnered with at the time InfoComm and now Avixa. And we really strive to bring the best quality curriculum to the AV industry. And thanks to our partners at no charge. And that's something that I think helps fuel keeping people in the industry, but also bringing new people into our industry, which is really important in this day and age. Younger people. I know you're friends with Alicia Henley. You have talked with her many times, and she often gives a testimonial of coming up from Houston to Dallas to an E4, and that's what, you know, got her into the industry, right? So those are the stories. That's the narrative that we want to keep propagating within E4 in terms of great high quality education, great exhibitors, new technology, you know, networking, you know, all of the things that really helps to create that community in that local area, whether it's Dallas or Boston or wherever we're going next year. But it really brings people together outside of a big, you know, a big trade show area, which in some cases, especially for end users, they can't afford to do that. You know, they can afford one day out of the office, but not 3 or 4. And so that's what we have created in this community with the E4 experience.
Well, and I love your intentional focus on that localized community, because you're right. You know, you talk about some of those end users and even a lot of installers and integrators. You know, it's difficult to make that trek out to a Vegas or an Orlando, but having localized shows makes it really, really, frankly, a little bit more easier for them to come out, especially when it's free. But, you know, when people ask me how they can get involved, how they can learn more about the industry, I always tell them to start local, right? Whether it's through a local chapter, whether it's through a local organization, or things like volunteering at, you know, whether it be a church or, you know, technical theater, football, sports, wherever there, you know, it starts locally. You know, but from your perspective, especially as someone who really understands really both sides of the AV coin, how important are those localized communities, especially for people that are just now entering the industry?
Well, I think it's important because, you know, the opportunities for networking have really been a lot less since COVID, and they're coming back. But, you know, fortunately, we've been in some great areas that have been open, you know, to the industry. And we're really in a position where we can bring people together. And that is what has been the success of E4, in addition to, our exhibitors just wanting to show the new technology, which has been amazing. People have had some great development cycles with kind of that pause, and we're starting to see that.
Well, look, a shameless plug for E4. I mean, it's a show I've been to a number of times, and it's always a heck of a time. But you talk about those stories like Alicia, and those really kind of are the fuel that keeps the show going at scale. Right? I talked to Sam Taylor, obviously, on the leadership team of the Exertis Almo team, and he really reiterated the importance of shows like E4. Right, and that was one of the questions that people had in a post-merger world. When Exertis and Almo merged together. But it seems like really you guys have doubled down on E4, right? And, the importance of those localized shows, the importance of that localized training, especially when you start talking about those end user communities and even, I don't want to call them prosumer hobbyists, right? But there are a lot of people who locally are making decisions for organizations like school districts, churches, things like broadcast studios, localized broadcast studios, things like that. How important, especially from maybe an end user and more the buyer side, how important is a show like E4 in these localized communities?
Well, I think one of the things that integrators have really caught on to with the E4 is that what I call the savvy integrators have realized that it's not just a show, but it is a real business proposition for them to bring their end users into the E4 event, because they can come to the event and through their partnership with Exertis Almo, show them all of the opportunities that they can offer through our partnerships. And it's been really powerful, Ben, because integrators have brought in users where they've quoted projects and, maybe they don't have a showroom anymore, or that product is 4 years old and they haven't re-outfitted it, or, they can't get on the corporate campus to build out, an LED wall to show them just because product's not available or because of protocols or whatnot. But when they bring the end users into our exhibit hall and show them the product live, they're closing business. I mean, it's really, for the end user, it's all about seeing it, right? Like we know that it is audio visual, right? It's the experience. So when they bring end users in and they see that LED wall or a short throw projector or experience the Nareva, new audio technology, that's what really starts closing business. And so we've been very encouraging to integrators to use the E4 as their showroom for the day. And that has been a great business proposition.
It's wonderful to see, like I said, a million times, it's wonderful to see how a show like E4 brings people really from all walks of life together. And not only is a lot of business being done at these shows, but a lot of learning and asking questions and learning not only from the end users, but really the channel as a whole, right? And I'm fortunate enough to live here in Dallas. E4, we've had a number of shows here in Dallas, and but one of the questions that I get asked all the time, and you probably hear a lot of the same, is a lot of our local communities are not necessarily in what we'll call major markets, right? And E4 can only go so far naturally, right? How can we as a community better serve maybe some of these people who are in not necessarily major markets?
Well, we're always doing, online coverage and videos at all the booths that we're visiting, talking to industry influencers at the event that is always streamed, online at E4 Experience. And, those are definitely some snippets that people can take away from the event.
One of the things that I've enjoyed personally about, attending things like E4 and some of these localized shows is a renewed focus not only on the buying channel community, but also the localized community, especially when it comes to things like recruiting talent, diversity, equity, inclusion, and really having these conversations on a localized level. Talk to me about, especially as we, kind of drive into the future, how important those conversations are to not only E4 specifically, but localized events in general.
Yeah, well, I'm really excited that we've added a whole new segment to E4 Boston. We're going to be having a roundtable discussion with Kim Lonis, who is our vice president of overall globally, really the basics, like what is DE&I? How do you start a conversation in your company? A lot of it is just people, they want that. They understand what it means that having a diverse organization is going to make you better. But how do you start those conversations? What does that mean to a small company? And so Kim and I, along with Alicia Henley and another special guest that is a surprise guest from, I'm just going to say, a very big architecture firm, talking about workplace development and designing for diversity. We're just going to be having a conversation on how to start that in your company. And I'm really excited, as a woman that's been in this industry for many years and seeing the changes and seeing how it has become more diverse. But we have a way to go. And this is just a great way to open a dialogue about DE&I. And so I'm excited to add this whole new dimension to E4 that is not product driven, not technology driven, but people driven.
Well, look, E4 is a show I'm always more than happy to plug on this show because it really, frankly, is something that I believe pretty heavily in, right? There's obviously the massive shows, you look at the Infocoms of the world and, even things like NAB and a number of different ways that people can get involved in the community. But I'm hyper passionate about the localized level. I know Melody is too. And events like E4 and initiatives that Exertis Almo continues to push forward are really indicative of that. And, shameless plug here, Melody, I'll give you the last word. Obviously, we talk about things like E4, but, what's next on the horizon for you guys over at Exertis Almo?
Well, we're just going to continue to, augment our offerings. One major initiative for us is services. There are so many integrators that need labor services that they just can't get. And that's across the country, Ben. You know that. Every day in the Wall Street Journal, you read about, labor shortages and we're a part of that, supply chain issue that's going on. So we've been focusing on trying to help integrators augment their labor services, either through, CAD services, installation, whatever that might be, because the need is there. And the need for highly qualified labor services is at the forefront of every integrator's mind every day. So that's one thing that we're going to continue to focus on, and then also bringing best of breed products, into our customer base that help solve problems.
Well, look, I mean, if anybody's watched this show for any length of time, I think they could suss out that I'm a massive fan of the work you guys are doing over at Exertis Almo. And we're frankly massive fans of you, Melody. We love the work that you guys are doing over there. And a lot of that is under your leadership. So we appreciate the work that you're doing. But, Melody, thanks so much for coming on the show again. I'm sure we'll find a way to have you back on soon.
That's right. Well, great. Thanks for having me on, Ben. I really appreciate it. Have a good one.
And thank you guys for watching. Be sure to tune in next time.